Thank you all for being here. We are for unsure what room you're in. We are in the annual membership meeting for the American Heart Society, and we're kicking off. Oh, this is fun. We are kicking off 23 Summer Institute. So thank you, everyone. Also have people who are watching us live online. So welcome to all of you home. And my name is Angela Schwarzkopf. I am your president of the American Heart Society. And I guess I'm Institute Chair Ali Chote, who is going to introduce our keynote speaker to you.
In case it hasn't already been mentioned, and this will only be the third time you've heard this, all of this is being recorded for the Heart Society archives. So there is absolutely no need for you to have any devices in use for any reason at any time, as long as you're in this room today for this event, okay? So I know you all have one somewhere, take it out, double check. You don't want to be the person that everybody's looking at and when they want, because we will, we're gonna see it out. I would like to introduce my dear friend Les Marsden, who I have known. I think we figured out that we've known each other since he's older than I am by maybe a year, but we've known each other since we were in junior high school. Because when we were growing up, we were both involved in everything to do with music. And the difference between us was that Les just did everything. He played the trumpet in the junior phil and wrote music and he conducted and he did all kinds of stuff. And one of my vivid memories was the summer program that we used to do for one of the local teachers who would recruit all the kids, and they would put on a show in the backyard, and we would play all the music, and Les would write the music and conduct the music, rehearse the music, the whole thing. So he has just had a really interesting life doing many, many different things. And one of the things I admire most about him is that he's had all these different things in, life happens to all of us, and we have transitions to make and changes to make, and we learn to adapt to this and that. But he just keeps bouncing back and creating new things and recreating his life again and again. And it's just been quite a ride for him and for those of us who know him. So thank you. You're blessed.
Thank you so much. I am so delighted to be here. But first, I would like to be the fourth person to say this is being recorded for the archives of the American. No, I guess I have to tell you. Problem at all. You're official. Well, thank you so much. I cannot, as I was telling Angela, I am thrilled beyond delighted because where else would it be better to be today than in a room full of harpists and those dedicated to the harp? This is sheer bliss. This is heaven. And I just wanted to share a few things. I almost feel like Ellie covered it so well, I should just thank you and go home. But there is something to be fleshed out, and that is everything else in between. Now, first thing first, I've got to get this out of the way, and I want to tell you all that I love every single one of you in this room. Now, I'm not being glib, I'm not being facetious. There is a reason I say that, and it has to do with the way everything will follow in my life. And that is that I, unlike many people, I try not to judge people based on appearance. I try not to make any sort of judgment. And if I don't, then that means I love you. I love you right off the top. I love you before we've even spoken. And then I just leave it to other people to let me know that I shouldn't love them. Those are the people that, yes, I'm not that simple-minded. Those are the people that, yes, I can dislike. And in some cases, when they're really, really bad people, I can hate them. And that's fun because hate can be a very constructive emotion. But we'll get into that later. Let me start at the very beginning. And in fact, are we mic'd here or not? Oh, good, because then I won't have to stand behind this thing. as Ellie said, and I don't know if you implied where we came from, but I was born in Fresno. Now, who here has ever been to Fresno? Who here has only heard of Fresno? Good. Do we have any Fresno residents? Oh, good. I can traction. Well, kind of. I was born in Fresno. I was born in 1957, which does make me older, much older than Ellis, who was born in 1983. 84, you're still 39. And it was a wonderful place to be born. It was a wonderful place to grow up. There were all sorts of opportunities back then when I was a kid. And one of the earliest opportunities, it seems like many things happened in my life when I was 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, for example, I remember being taken to a Jerry Lewis movie. And I was stunned, not necessarily by what he was doing up on the screen personally, but as I looked around the audience, I saw people all around me smiling or laughing. And I realized it was all because that one man up there was bringing them joy. He was bringing them happiness. And I thought, I want to be like that when I grow up. And I want to specifically be an actor just like that. And that was my life goal at the age of 4. And I kind of stuck with it. However, at the age of 4, I also learned piano. My older brother and sister had piano lessons. And I don't really remember this, but I was told I'm out of my hot spot. Only an actor would realize it. I don't remember this, but my parents would tell me that I'd hear a commercial playing on the ancient little black and white round screen TV, and then I'd go over to the piano and I would pluck out the tune of the commercial. And they thought, isn't that unusual? And I didn't, because I thought, well, everybody should do that. It's fun. But they then spoke with am I getting out of range? I can come even closer. They took me to my sibling's piano teacher, and she said, oh, no, I never take anybody that age. So I plunked out a few tunes, and she said, yes, I will take him. So I began my studies on the piano at the age of 4. By the age of 11, I was credentialed as a piano teacher in the state of California. And in the meanwhile, as Ellie noted, I began to pick up other instruments just because, why settle for one? Why not play everything you can? So when we did elementary school, it was wonderful days when there were elementary school orchestras in places like Fresno. And so I thought string instruments were fun, but there were none left. And about the only thing that there was left was the trumpet. And apparently I had decent chops for the trumpet, and I learned to play the trumpet in the 4th grade and began to have my lessons and all that. And gradually, over the years, picked up more brass instruments. And then I bought myself a cello when I was in my mid-teens, kind of learned how to play that, a clarinet, kind of learned how to play that. And before you know it, Ellie and I are playing not only in the junior field and other things. And I was fortunate because I've always had a demonstrably curious mind. And by that I mean, I let people know that I'm curious about something. At the time, the late Maestro Guy Taylor was the music director and conductor of the Fresno Philharmonic Orchestra. And we were fortunate that he was also the man who programmed and led and conducted the Fresno Junior Philharmonic. And I had something that was kind of nice. I had something in my back pocket with it, kind of gave me the edge. Maestro Taylor had a 240C. Now, this was about 1973 or 4 when I had a Volkswagen. I was 16, 17 years old, and I had a Volkswagen, not a Volkswagen. Some guy, some jerk, ran a red light, crashed into my Volkswagen. In a split second, thought, I can't go through that window. I went through the windshield, and this hand tore off the gear shift knob, and my knee was in the dash, and I was bleeding profusely. And a long story short, the guy fled the state. Well, we had, fortunately, uninsured motorists on my car, and so I was able to take that little, $400 Volkswagen 1963 Bug and turn that insurance money around into buying myself a used 240Z. This kid at the age of 17 had his own Z. Well, Maestro Taylor had a Z, so we had a connection. And one of the things I will never forget from him, his speedometer stopped working, and he would drive with his wife from Fresno over to the coast, and they'd stay for a few days. But with no speedometer, he really realized that when the car in fourth gear hit G sharp, that was 55, which I thought, brilliant, brilliant. And so we had a lot of stories to tell to one another about our Cs. And then I let him know that I was interested. I had already written my first symphony a few years earlier, and I wanted to write more music, and it would be so nice to be. He offered, I think before I did, to mentor me, to allow me to program it with the Fresno Junior Philharmonic and to perform it. And I thought, wow, what a lucky kid I am. And that's when that all started, and I owe everything to the maestro. The unfortunate thing maybe is at the same time my love for music was being cultivated, so was my love for theater. And while I was still in my mid to late teens, I began performing in local theatrical productions in Fresno. And, various things that a kid of my age could do. I wasn't one for being a 16-year-old kid putting on wrinkles and playing an 80-year-old man. I played, we did the Little Fox Community Theater, and I was the scheming heroine's son. So there were all of those things. Well, I then hit college. I loved the theater. I loved music. And I really had to make up my mind between the two. And I thought long and hard, and then I realized, okay, I love them both. Theater is the far more absurd field in which one could try to make a living. Nobody can make a living in the theater. So I went with that. And while I was still in college, I began to think, okay, how does one make that jump? People, they go to New York, they get into the chorus line, they slave away, they become waiters, they get into this long, disheartening rut, and then they mostly, for almost all of them, end up as waiters or waitresses and then stopping and going back home wherever they came from that wasn't that bad. Well, I didn't want to go through that, and I wanted to put the odds on my own back. And here's where we begin to talk about creation of oneself. So what I did at the age of 20 was, I always loved the Marx Brothers. And I think I loved Harpo most of all, as so many of you, I hope, do. And I'm going to tell you where I've spent the last couple of days when we get to that point, but I'm still. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to write and star in a one-man show based on the life of Harpo Marx, in which I could play the character, the we all know, but also take off the wig, take off the costume, and become the real man who was born Adolf Marx, and who changed his name as soon as he got 21 because he was terrified of his mother, changed his name to Arthur Marx. And so I thought, I do not want to do this without permission, without the full assistance of the family. Now I should back up just a little bit, because by this time in my life, I had already managed to finagle my way into Groucho's house. Groucho, who was very, very elderly, and at that time was not too far away from the time that we would pass on. Persistence. I would go to the house, I figured out the address, I would go down to LA, which is about a 4-hour drive from Fresno, and I would go to his house, 1083 Hillcrest Drive in Truesdale Estates. And I can tell you that now because he's dead and doesn't live there anymore. But I would go to that house, and I had my 240Z with the Harpo M personalized license plate. And I would go and I would park across the street, and then tourism vehicles would go by, or people would stop. They'd see Harpo M, and they'd think, oh, he must be part of the family. They'd stop in the middle of the street and stare at me. So I'd always look away so they couldn't see me. I'd go up to the door and I would say, hi, can I see Groucho? Can I come in and meet him? And they'd say, no, you can't. Go away. We will never let you in. I'd come back the next day at the same time. Hi, I'd like to meet Groucho. Can I come in? No, you will never be allowed to meet Groucho or come in the house. After several days of this, they finally gave up because they saw that I was somebody who wouldn't give up. And they finally said, okay, look, we know between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. next Thursday, Erin Fleming, who you may remember as being a somewhat crazy lady who had worked her way into his life and in some ways was keeping him alive, in some ways he was mentally ill. and it does not work out well. And so they knew she wouldn't be there, so I could come in. Oh boy, that day finally arrived. I drove up with my Harpo M car, and I parked across the street from the house. And before I knew it, one of those pesky cars had pulled up, and they were staring at me, so I was looking away. And they just stayed there for a long time. And finally, the engine started up. They pulled into his driveway, and I saw that it was Groucho in the passenger seat and his nurse driving him. And I thought, wow, it's Groucho Marx. This elderly, frail little man got out of the car and stared across the street and like, oh, who is that? And then eventually just didn't care. And she let him back into the house. Well, I went bounding up to the door, knocked on the door, and they let me in. I was inside this sanctuary. There was a poultry right by the door with Harpo and Chico wigs and all kinds of hats. And this was actually one of Harpo's real wigs. And there was the duck from You Bet Your Life ruining the beautifully appointed dining room. It was hanging from the chandelier. There was a beautiful rock garden, and there were little rubber ducks in the rocks. Yeah. Somebody had gone to a lot of time and trouble to make the house look really, really good. But you're a Marx builder. You need to not look really, really good. So the nurse came back. She led me all the way in the back of the house into his library, and I came face to face with Groucho Marx. And I was 19, 20, something like this. And I had not given up. I wanted to meet that man. So I held my hand out. He very carefully took it and he mumbled something. His voice was shot. He was hard of hearing. He had strokes and heart attacks. It was very difficult to hear. But I thought, oh, it's got to be a laugh. So I laughed at it. A joke. So I laughed. And so I then said, Groucho, I've got to be one of your biggest fans, and I've always wanted to meet you. And in that voice that had been nearly demolished by time, it was slow, but he did say, well, now you've met me. Come on. Now, this is the thing that really got me. On one of my visits to the house, I had given the staff a newspaper clipping from the Fresno Bee that told all about how I and my friends performed at some Marx buildings. At that point, Groucho, without taking it out, remembered that I was from Fresno, that I played his brother Harpo, and remembered my name, which was not the same name now that it was back then. I was born Leslie J. Marderosian. I'm Armenian. But that was really way too long for the theater, whatever they call it. And so I changed my name when I was about 25 to Mara. I like it. And so that was that. And I went back to the house a couple of times. We go forward a year or two, Groucho had died. I then put the moves on Harpo's widow in a nice way. And I found her phone number she was living in Rancho Mirage. I found her phone number. I called her up and I said, hi, my name is, I'd like to do this one-man show on your husband if you wouldn't mind. And she said, yes, well, I would mind. It's never going to happen. Click. So I wasn't one to give up. I wrote her a long letter and I said, please do not tell me that I can't do the show until we've had a chance to at least meet in person. Months went by, month after month. I sent her one more letter, nothing. And here's one time when I then decided to do something a little different. I also love Buster Keaton. I found Buster Keaton's widow's number in the LA book. I called her up and I said, hi, my name is Les. I would like to do a one-man show on the life of your husband, Buster, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, we love that. Yes, I would love to talk to you about that. And then a letter came from Susan saying, come down and meet me. Well, that was my first thought. I really wanted to do harp. So, and by the way, I had already begun to study the harp. I studied with Penny Beavers at CSU Fresno. And after a semester or two with Penny, I stopped because I was learning how to play the harp properly. And I didn't want that. I wanted to learn how to play the harp as harpo player. I'll live with it for those of you who know this technique. And so Susan allowed me to come down, and I have to watch the clock because I can really turn this into something very, very long. And I really shouldn't because there's so much more to talk about. Oh, So I have another hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so I called her up, we arranged for a day and a time, and that was that. I drove from my 240Z, and when I got to NC, gas up, some stupid woman back in my car, and we could come, we had to do this, maybe that, and so I finally was late. I was late. People way before cell phones, so I could just call her up and say, I'm gonna be late. I just took my chances and I drove like a bat out of hell. And when I got down to Rancho Mirage, I stopped at a Safeway and got chocolates for her and some cheap supermarket flowers. I thought, oh, she's going to hate me. It was 137 billion degrees outside. I found the place. I jumped out of the car. I went running up to the front door and I thought, oh, I'm late. She's going to hate me. She was so hurt in her letter, and she said, no, 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 you can meet me, but you can't do the show. And I rang the doorbell, and this little angel answered the door. Just an angel with a little halo of gray hair. And she said, oh, you must be Les. Oh, come on in. I'm just going to make some lemonade. Would you like some lemonade? It's so much better with limes. I'll go next door to the neighbors and get some limes and just look around the house, and I'll be back in a few minutes. And I thought, is she... she doesn't know me. And here is the treasure of the Harpo Marx family. Here are the paintings, the John Decker portrait of the Marx brothers, the Rembrandt copies of them as the Marx brothers. Harpo is the Laughing Cavalier, Harpo as Blue Boy. All this great art on the walls, all these momentous props of Harpo's wigs. And I am just in seventh heaven. And then she finally came back. First thing out of her mouth, well, I feel like in Krusty, you can do whatever you want with the show. Why did she put me through all of that? Well, it was great because I said, I will only do this with your complete cooperation and assistance. And if there's anything you don't want me to do, I won't. Okay? She respected that. And so I wrote the one-man show. She insisted I make their 4 kids. Bill, who was the eldest, some of you may know Bill Marx. He's a wonderful pianist, and he now lives down in Rancho Mirage in Palm Desert. And so I met Bill back in 1978 or so. I met the other 3 children, Minnie, and all 4 were adopted. All 4 were adopted kids. In order, they were Bill, the next was Alex, then Jim, and then Minnie. I met them all, and the reaction to me was just extraordinary over the years. It's having them come to the show. And I won't go into details, but believe me, there are plenty. So here I am with the show finally, and I finally premiered it with me playing Love Me and the World Is Mine on the harp, which was the very first song that Harpo ever learned to play on the piano. And so I did that. And to be even more audacious, I invited Susan to come up to Fresno to see the premiere. So there she was, sitting in the front row. And I'm in a little theater about this, maybe 99 seats at CSU Fresno. And there's Harpo Marx's wife right in front of me. And I'm a dumb kid. And I had the audacity to be wearing this wig and wearing the costume and doing the harp and piano there. I didn't care. I was doing it for her. I was hoping that she would appreciate the sincerity that I had. And so she did. And the show was very successful in its original run at State. And it was booked directly from State, CSU Fresno, to the Judy Bailey Theater, the summer theater of Las Vegas, and from there to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. All heady stuff for a kid of 21, 22. And that was it. That was then my introduction into real show business. And within a very brief period, I had received my SAG card, I'd gotten my AEA card, American Actors Equity, and my AFTRA card. And I was working in a little bit of TV and film in LA. And I thought, well, that's great. I can support my wife and myself. Well, my girlfriend had become my wife. But I'm not really doing a lot of theater. And that's what I really need to act. And so at that time, Arthur Mark, who was Groucho's son and who was a prolific playwright, came to see me in 2 productions. I was starring in 2 plays back to back. I was starring in his Minnie's Boys as Groucho, and I was doing my one-man show as Harpo on the other nights. And so he and his writing partner, Bob Fisher, came to see both. And then they talked. And they said, well, we heard this play called Groucho, which is what it was called at that time. But there's a role for Chico in it. And at the time, Groucho was being played by Gabe Kaplan, and Chico was being played by Robert Hedges, who had been F-Sane on Welcome Back Home. Well, I got to know them both, and Bobby was just a magnificent person, adored him. So they first hired me to come in and be the Groucho consultant, which I did, but it didn't really help Gabe performance. And so then, not long thereafter, Groucho and Robert got the show away from Gabe and said, we were going to rewrite it entirely. We've got another actor for Groucho. Would you be Chico? Because I did play the piano, as I've already made clear. And I taught myself the technique of shooting the keys, as Chico did. So I said, yeah, sure. So the first day of rehearsal, I got together with this other actor, and Arthur said, well, now we have you as Chico. I'm hoping that we can write you in as Harpo. I said, well, Arthur, you know what your Aunt Susan feels about your writing for Harpo. Because he had written Minnie's Boys. She didn't like the way he wrote Harpo. So Arthur said, yeah, I was hoping you'd talk to her. Okay, so I called Susan. I said, your nephew Arthur would like Harpo in the show. She said, okay, under these conditions, only if you play him and if you write him into the show. I went back to Arthur and Robert. Okay, this amazing dual role was born for me as Harpo and Chico. And so we tried it out in Canada, we tried it out in Kansas City, we tried it out, and we took it to New York and went through way too much of the story to go into. It's another long story, so forget about that story. But we opened, and it was a huge success in New York. And it ran 86, 87. And then we were signed to play the show in London on the West End. And boy, I had already done my one-man show, of course, in Edinburgh. And my wife and I love all of England. But I got to work there. And American actors don't usually get to work in London. They have to be traded. I was traded for the cast of an entire British play that came over to Broadway. So we did the show there, and it was also successful, but it did not make good box office. And so, the critics raved, but the people didn't come. And so the show was only open for about 3 months. The day before we closed, the Laurence Olivier nominations were announced, and I was nominated for Best Comedy Performance of the Year against 3 other actors. And this was unheard of. That's like the equivalent of the Tony Award, if not more important than that. And so I was nominated for this world's highest acting honor. Now, of course, the Limeys didn't see fit to actually give me the damn award. But so anyway, that's it. My career had begun. I went on and on and on. In the ensuing years, I stayed in touch with Susan, whom I adored. Susan would take me to parties introduced me to lots of her best friends, like Gloria Stewart, the old lady from Titanic, dear friend of Susan's. And she would always introduce me as, please meet Harpo's and my 5th kid. Now, there can be nothing better than that. And to me, that outweighs the Laurence Olivier Award. So I was the real winner. Susan was very dear to me. And so was Bill, the eldest. And the others were great too. And unfortunately, 2 of the children have died. Minnie and Alex died. But Bill is still alive. I've always made fun of him for the fact that he is 20 years and 1 month older than me. And you've probably figured out if I was born in 57, I am, 66, which makes Bill 86. And I just spent the most magnificent couple of days with Bill at his house down in Palm Desert. We hadn't seen each other in a few years. And it was a thrill. It was just a thrill, because here is Harpo's son, the man who helped Harpo with his harp and with the loading of all the props and all that. And we've been friends for all these years. He does call me his brother. He calls me his uncle, and he calls me his dad, because I played all of those characters. And so, wonderful time. I had this dream career that people dream of, that they work all their lives for to make happen, and usually it doesn't. But I made it happen. Perseverance. And then in 1999, I was starring in a play at the Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. And at the end of Act 1, the theater round, all around, and there was an elevator opening right in the middle of the stage, a round hole, and a trunk would come up on that elevator, and I would throw open the trunk lid, jump straight up in the air, and come straight down feet first and disappear, because I would then fall 8 feet to a pit. It was one of the pattern. Well, one night the trunk came up, I threw open the lid, I jumped up, I came down, and my left foot hit the edge of the stage opening because they had misset the trunk. It was not directly over the trapdoor opening. And so it was the most excruciating pain, and it was like a cartoon because I saw stars. I heard little birds, and I heard this pop noise, and don't get the wrong idea. My Achilles tendon did not tear. It would have been so much nicer had it done so. But apparently there's 10% of the human population has really tough tendon materials, and it won't tear. Mine reacted with all this weight coming down the iron. My foot went all the way to here. My Achilles tendon was stretched beyond its capability, and it reacted by immediately contracting and dying. So I then, from that moment in 1999, have a dead Achilles tendon. Well, it's kind of painful. It does lots of things that you don't want it to do, and you can't really walk without limping. So after about 2 years of legal and medical ramifications, my wife and I decided that we could afford to retire at that age. I could not act anymore. The only roles I could do would be Sheridan Whiteside in The Man Who Came to Dinner rolling around, or Richard III. And there are not a lot of productions of either. Well, we decided that we would sell our properties on the East Coast and we would move back to California, buy a house for cash, and then live comfortably on our savings and my pensions and all that, which is exactly what we did in 2001. We moved back to California and wanted to be right near Yosemite because we love Yosemite. We're just outside Yosemite at 4,000 feet. The town of Mariposa is about a half hour from us. We're in the deep woods. It's just like being in the valley floor of Yosemite at our house. Same elevation, same animals. We have bears, we have coyotes. The other night, a mountain lion. We turned on the light of the mountain lion outside with a little raccoon, and it's bad. And the raccoon was going, "Oh, he put me down. This isn't funny anymore." And the mountain lion was looking at us like, "Yeah, what do you want?" We turned off the light and let them go about what was that? Well, after about 5 months of being retired in Mariposa, I was so bored I could kill myself. The Mariposa County Art Council had found out about me, and they had encouraged me to join the board, which I did. And at a planning meeting, just a little while after that, they were talking about things. What can we do? What can we? Well, nothing was a really major idea. And I said, it would be fun for me. I think there are probably retired musicians, the teachers around. Maybe I could pull together a little chamber orchestra, salon orchestra, I'd play piano and make arrangements as they did in the deck of the Titanic. And at the time, this seemed to be about as good an idea as playing on the deck of the Titanic. And I began calling musicians, and I got more and more references. 15?
I know.
Only 15? Okay, so I began calling musicians. By our first rehearsal, I actually had 17 musicians, and it was almost a good homogeneic orchestration of what it was. But it was beyond what I had thought I would get. And of course, it wasn't like a traditional chamber orchestra at all, the orchestration. And so we started, and I thought, well, there are a few pieces that I could do. There was a Mozart symphony I could do. We could do the Barber Adagio. We could do this. We did. Well, by the time our first concert rolled around, I had 31 musicians. We performed and brought down the house, and the orchestra sounded like hell. It was terrible. We'd been rehearsing for months and months, but they didn't care because now Mariposa had its own orchestra. And at the beginning of it, this is some crazy newcomer. What's he doing? It's stupid. But by that time of that first concert, it was and so they did. And then by the next concert, which was only a couple months later, we had 45. We then gradually got our way up to about 55, and that's as many as I can have in it, simply because our home theater, which is the Mariposa County High School, has a tiny stage. I had a stage extension built for it, 32 feet wide, 8 feet deep. But even then, we could only fit a few more musicians. So we are seriously constricted by the size of our stage. However, we started, and that was 2002, December 21st of 2002 was our first concert. And then COVID hit. We were running along. Oh, I probably need to back up just a moment. In about 2007, 2008, I had been, again, for distance, I had been bugging the staff of Yosemite National Park and their concessionaire to let us play at the Iwani Hotel. You probably know the Iwani Hotel. And they kept saying, oh, no. And by now I had been on the board of the Economic Development Corporation of Mariposa County. I was on all these things, but I knew what the arts do for an economy and certainly for a small rural. And so I bugged them. It was just like going to Groucho's house until they finally gave in. They said, you may have one concert, that's it. I said, thank you. Because I knew what would happen. They did. As soon as it was announced, the Awani sold out all of its remaining bookings. They had reservations in the dining room from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. sold out. I got a call from the head of the concession at that time. He called and said, Les, we were kind of, what we were wondering, I said, if we do more concerts for you in Yosemite? Yes, please. Well, we started doing them annually in the Awani, and then finally, by about 2018, 2017, we were planning 3 a year in Yosemite of this symphony orchestra of ours. And we had international visitors and people writing home and they were sending it. It was wonderful. And then COVID hit and it all ended. Not just the concerts, but the orchestra itself. Because the Mariposa County Arts Council had been taken over by a different group of people, many of whom did not even live in Mariposa County. They were a much younger demographic, which is not a reflection of Mariposa County itself. And they decided that after 21 years of me being on that board and me leading the organization as president during the most troubling time when our facility burned down and I fought to bring it back, they decided, but do I get ahead of this? No, they decided to dump me from the board after 21 years of serving that organization while I was being treated for cancer. I was being treated for cancer, inoperable cancer. And not just cancer, a metastasis carcinoma. Now, I'm not going to, unfortunately, have time to go into the story of how that all came about. But one day, first off, in 2018, unrelated, my back had been hurting, my legs had been going numb. I was diagnosed with having spinal stenosis in the lumbar region. And my neurologist said, this is life-threatening. If this continues much more, it's going to shut down your liver and bladder, and you will die within 8 hours. Well, they rushed me off to a hospital. They gave me the operation. The operation was a success, except for the fact that they had not properly sealed the dura. So I got a seroma, a fluid bag that started being filled with and produces horrible pain. They had to rush me back 2 weeks later, do the whole thing all over again. And there was supposed to be a year recovery on my back. Well, I only missed one concert. So that tells you the kind of resilience I have. And so then about in 2019, I was having numbness in my hands and my orthopedic surgeon said, oh, you have stenosis in your cervical region too. It's very common if you have it in the lumbar to also have it in the cervical, rarely in the thoracic. But okay, we're so sorry you do that. In a minute. The MRIs were showing us something on your cervical vertebra. It looks like just a bone lesion. That's probably all it is, but let's do some tests. Well, they did some advanced MRI testing and they said, this looks like a cancer, but we don't know. It might not be. We need to do a biopsy, needle biopsy. The guy who was supposed to do it said, I'm not going to do that. That is intertwined with nerves, blood vessel. No, that's too dangerous. We could kill him. Well, the next day they called up and they had scheduled the appointment. They did the biopsy, and it did turn out, in fact, to be, and I hope I have the time to actually tell you a little bit of detail. It was January 2nd of 2020. It had snowed outside. Whenever it snows, we have a long loop driveway, and I always like to put the cars up on the road, or near the top of the driveway, so that we don't have to worry about shoveling bottom. Hiring somebody to do the whole thing. So I put the cars up there overnight and we were having a lovely morning and the phone rang and it was my orthopedic surgeon from Fresno and he was in tears. And I put it on the speakerphone and this is where he then let us know, you have an inoperable metastasis carcinoma, which means you have a late stage cancer elsewhere in your body. We cannot operate on that thing. And this is beyond what I do or can do. I've referred you to a cancer and oncologist. 20 minutes of dialogue. The phone call was over, and then My wife and I looked at each other for a full minute without saying a word. Then I said, you know, it stopped snowing. I think I'll go move the cars back down. To make things even worse, I get up there. My car had a big flat tire, brand new Michelin, flat tire. So I'm sitting on my ass in the snow, pardon my French, jacking the car up, trying to put on this little miniature. He didn't just say that, did he? This miniature spare, and that's how I dealt with the news of being told I had cancer. I was told later on, it was very refreshing for my oncologist, because mostly people get this diagnosis, and it came with a prognosis. Over 60% of the people with that diagnosis are dead in 5 months. The rest are, well, more are dead within 2 years. The rest, all of them, are gone within 3 or 4 years. Dead. Well, I didn't care. Cancer? I had caused Broadway producers to run screaming from the negotiating table in tears. Cancer? Well, so we went through the stuff. I got the high dose radiation. It took away my sense of taste, and it dried up my salivary glands. They hardly functioned. So I'm talking all this time with a very dry mouth. Don't worry about that. And so then eventually, so I had this high dose radiation. It was pretty nasty, very painful, burned everything. And then we went through this process immediately of trying to find the primary cancer. I had PET scans, I had blood marker tests, I had all of this stuff. And they couldn't find it. So then I kept going back for more testing, more testing, more testing. They could not find the primary cancer. They knew it was in there somewhere to cause this metastasis. Well, after a couple of years, they said it's possible that those cells then went back into hiding somewhere, and then the tumor would have to be 5 to 7 millimeters to be picked up on a PET scan. Or, as we went on through, they said, you could be a very strange rarity in cancer. It's possible that you killed the tumor, that your body attacked it, killed it. Sure, that's what I plan to do. So now they're saying I'm in remission, I'm perfectly fine, I feel fine, just, you know, this and that and this and this and a lot of pain, but I'm on a lot of medication, which makes give you an idea why I seem so happy. But in any event, the orchestra during that period was dissolved by the art council, and I was kicked off the board. Behind my back, no advance notice, because we had a lot of younger people who didn't want a stuffy old, as they called it, a symphony. I hate using that term. It's a symphony orchestra. You play a symphony, an orchestra plays symphony. You wouldn't call a marching band a marching, would you? And so the orchestra was gone during COVID. And I didn't take no for an answer. I recreated the orchestra. Well, we had a lot of musicians who moved out of the area, and a draw for musicians in about 5 counties. Do I have 5 minutes? Okay. Angela?
Yes.
How about 10? Yes. And I have to say right now, you know how I told you all that I love you all? I love her even more. Okay, so in the space of just a few months, and after having recovered from all these maladies and still not feeling well because I don't, I then brought back the orchestra, except I have a huge need of more cellos. If you know any cellists living in the Fresno area, please send them to me. I have my business card right here. We brought it all back together again, and this is where Ellie and I got back into touch. And this dear, amazing woman has come to play with us as a sectional harpist. And profound pleasure and honor of introducing her to both of our audiences in Yosemite, outside Yosemite, and in Mariposa, by the number of years we've known each other, and the number of years that I had adored her, and the number of years that we had played together. Now, that's really something when you can introduce somebody to your audience and say, we first played together over 50 years ago, because we're not that old, are we? No, we're not. We're not. In the words of Harpo Marx, you're only young forever. Well, that is, I'm going to try to just tie together a couple more little things that I think would be nice for you to know. So I really can't play the harp anymore because I can't, my left foot can't tell. I haven't played the harp in years. My own harp is one, the 1921 Model 17 that was Mildred Billy's. I knew Mildred. I was fortunate for that because Mildred was a dear friend of Harpo's. And after Mildred died, this one particular Model 17, which was part of her collection of 50 in her apartment in Manhattan, I rented it for a while from her, and her estate contacted me and they said, we know how much that harp meant to you. Would you like to have that harp? And I said, sure. And they said, well, that's $700. So it was kind of nice that they offered it to me. $700 is absolutely nothing, but for the fact that it was falling apart because it wasn't well cared for. But that is my harp. It sits in my living room along with other relics from Harpo's career. I've always felt a very deep connection with Harpo and therefore with all my fellow harpists. And you are far better than I at the harp. I know it because I haven't been able to play in 24 years. But in short, and the most important takeaway that I want you to be left with is never accept the word no. Never think that if one door is closed, and I hate that trite phrase, if a door is closed, well, the elevator opens over here, you go in and it shoots up. There is always something more to be done. And you can do it. Tap into something else that you believe in. Even if each one of you today, suddenly, for some reason, we're told you can no longer play the harp ever for the rest of your life, I want you to think, what could I do instead? No, oh dear, my life is over. It's not. And I hope that just sharing a bit of my life with you has given you the idea that if I can do it, anybody can do it. All it takes is a little hard thought and a little more hard work. And you can bounce back. You can reinvent yourself. You can be anything your heart tells you it wants you to be. And with that, do you have any questions?
Play the harp with your pinkies.
No,
Like
of course not. No, Harpo didn't either. No, Harpo did his thing. No, one of the few things Mildred did get him to do was proper. She got him to close his hands. He still wouldn't fully close his hand. But you know, Zavaleta would Harpo pay for a lesson with Zavaleta or with the great artist of the day, and he would go and plunk down his $10, and they would start. I said, well, I saw a night in Casablanca. Now there was this little technique that you did. I don't know how you got that sound. What exactly did you do? And then Harpo would show them, and then they would say, well, and I remember in a Night at the Opera, there was a slip pedal technique that you used. Could you demonstrate that? Because it was so smooth. And the half hour would go by, and Harpo would have taught the great harpist of this day a lesson and paid for the privilege. So Harpo was a magnificent harpist. Bill, when he started working as a Juilliard graduate, and you can give me or whatever you like, the hook, anything. Bill was a magnificent musician himself and still is, even though at 86, he really is not playing anywhere anymore. And, but again, I can't tell you how I'm still jazzed by this thrill, this delight, this joy that I have of spending time with my brother, my son, my nephew. And Bill moves a lot slower now. And I wish I asked Ellie if there was going to be a possibility of doing any sort of visuals. And in 1978, there's a wonderful picture at his house. It was taken by a photographer. And I had no idea he was going to do this. We were just going to have a picture. And just before the camera snapped, Bill grabbed my hand and gave me the lip. And you remember what Harpo would do? He'd go up to somebody and he would just give them the lip. And that would be in their hand, and it's like he would offer his hand and would take a swig instead. Well, Bill did that to me. I have a wonderful picture. It took me my present, this one. And Bill is looking at the camera and he's giving me the lip. Yesterday we recreated that picture 45 years later. And I posted it on my Facebook page, and Ellie, take a look at it, and I'll share it on the Harpo Marks page on Facebook. It moved even me, and I have no heart whatsoever. So, if there are no more questions, I don't want Angela to be angry. Oh, yes, yes. No, and I felt terrible about that too, because I really thought it would be wonderful, and Eleanor was so eager to have me do it. but then I made up some kind of an excuse, as kids in their 20s will do, a kid of 19 or 20 will do. And I made up some excuse to tell her why I'm so sorry I can't do it, but I would like to in the future. And I really did want to do it in the future. And the only reason I couldn't is because it was so successful with Harpo. And I would have loved for it to have been a flop, so I could have moved on to Buster Keaton. Any other questions? Oh, one last thing. Years of debating it. A couple months ago, I joined the American Heart Society. For 2 years.
Well, that was fantastic. What a joy to hear about your incredible career. Thank you for sharing it, and I think it has inspired all of us to continue to be resilient in our lives and in our work. Thank you. As exciting or interesting. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. We're going to talk about the minutes from our last membership meeting. One of the housekeeping things that we have to do in our membership meeting is approve the minutes of our previous membership meeting. So, in order to do so, I need someone to make a motion, something like, I move to approve the minutes of the 2022 annual membership meeting. So moved. Thank you.
Second.
And seconded, oh, thank you so much. Now that the motion is on the floor, if anyone has any questions on the minutes or wants to discuss them, they were published in draft form in the American Heart Journal in the winter 2022 edition. I know, so exciting. Please. So now we all get to vote on them. It says a vote on approving them. So all those in favor of approving the minutes of our 2022 annual membership meeting, please raise your hand. Amazing, thank you. Does anyone not approve the minutes? Does anyone abstain? All right. Well, the minutes have been approved. Thank you so much for taking part in this housekeeping moment of our meeting. And now I would like to welcome up Carrie, who is the president of the American Heart Foundation, and I'm going to switch slideshow. Bear with me over to there, and she's gonna speak with you.
And we're gonna do duet here, where she splits and I speak.
Yes, I will be your clicker.
Okay, thank you, and it's delightful to be here today, and thank you so much for having me here. And I want to thank the Board of Directors. I had the privilege of speaking with them earlier today. This presentation, we will click through very quickly because nobody needs to have someone read to you out loud right this particular moment. So we will move quickly through this production, this presentation. I will just interrupt to say thank you to our keynote speaker and say that I'm sure we all wish him many, many more richly fulfilling years. And I will also say that after about 20 years of playing the harp, I was told that my birthday was the same day as Harpo Marx. And but I'm sorry, I don't have a swordfish or a cup of tea in my pocket. It wouldn't have gotten me through TSC. Anyway, yes. Yeah, well, anyway, thank you very much for the beautiful presentation. So, the American Heart Society Foundation, as it was originally called, was founded as a support organization for the American Heart Society, and it was 1993, and we had a wonderful group of founders. You can find all of their wonderful pictures and so forth at the back end of this presentation. And our mission was to help support those projects of the American Heart Society, which, if you look at our website, you'll see has been richly successful. There have been over 30 years of winners of the Ann Adams competition, the Kids for Camp Awards, the Barbara Weiger Lefty Sims Composition Award, the Brosnan Memorial Award. Many of these people have gone on to become our most famous and renowned harpists in orchestras, professors, and so the legacy of the Heart Foundation is very special, and I'm honored to be here as its president. It underwent a change in structure recently, where we became, instead of a support organization, a standalone public charity. Yes, you can leave it just, that's fine. The change really doesn't affect the Heart Society at all, really, because all of the projects that we fund, we will be continuing to do so. It just allows us a stronger vehicle for accepting donations. There were changes in the laws that meant there were some kinds of things like IRA accounts that we couldn't take in, and now we can. So we become stronger, and we're therefore able to be more supportive to the American Heart Society and support projects like the Scholarship for the Bundock Moore Fund, which is a Colorado-based scholarship. Anyway, we have a board of directors, as you can see, that includes our maestro's, one of his harp teachers, Anyhow Beavers, and she will be very happy to have been acknowledged. Anyway, we are a group of volunteers. There's no staff. Everybody is extremely dedicated. It's a steep learning curve to find out about all the laws in the state of Oregon, where the foundation is based, and the state of New York, where the Heart Society is based, and to try to do everything in accordance with all of those regulations and come out with successful competitions that benefit a lot of young harpists. And now we also can do a lot of other projects too. So it's a thrill to be working with Angela and your board of directors, our liaison, Jeremy, who's fantastic. We're really grateful. It's a very, very hardworking board of directors. So there's a list of the many funds that we oversee. And here we have the financials, and I left it as a pretty picture because the pretty picture illustrates the original funds, which are the beige on the bottom, and then the investment gains on the top. There was a dip in 2008. We all know about 2008. There was a dip during the pandemic, but we have wonderful guidance from Randall Collis, who's been with us since the beginning at Merrill Lynch and cares very much about us and is really just masterful at helping us. And all of the specifics of this document are in the hands of the board of directors and can be accessed if anybody needs it or was curious. So, let's see, what have I said here? This is just more of the explanation of some of the structural changes we made. And again, some of that is just a lot of financial gobbledygook. But if anybody wants to learn more about it, we have become a much stronger investment place. And we are really excited about all the things that we are now going to be able to do. And this just recaps some of what I just said, but it also explains that we are beginning our first ever capital campaign. And we have a couple of categories. Our winner's circle, we're reaching out to all of our former winners over the past 30 years. And the 5-year Founders Club, an idea brought to us from Randall Collis. And Any amount can be contributed and over the 5-year period. And this is all being kicked off with a new legacy donation that Mr. Bernard Grosjean has given us. In perpetuity, we will be receiving the royalties from 2 categories of the composition royalties, which we're very honored to be getting. So we're planning the 2024 major competitions, Ann Adams, the Grosjean Memorial. We've posted all of the repertoire online, and we are soon going to be posting more of the details, and eventually we will post the applications, et cetera, et cetera. I urge all of you, if you haven't already, to look at the link here with the competition winners from the last 2 major cycles, which we had to do virtually. But there's a link. We asked each of the 8 performers, 3 Ann Adams and 1 Grosjean from each of those 2 cycles, to send us the performance they were most proud of. Didn't have to be linked to their competition material, and updated bio, et cetera, et cetera. And they each sent us marvelous performances, and I think you might really enjoy checking in. This is our 2023 Kathy Bundock Moore Scholarship winner, Eliza Fikialos, who is a Utah harpist and a student. She will be matriculating with Professor Judy Wilman, Angela's wonderful mentor and teacher. And we're very, very, very happy that such a qualified harpist has won this award. And our Kids for Camp winner, this is her 2nd time being awarded this wonderful amount that is going to Jocelyn Skye Goldman. And she studies with Penny Beavers, again, who is our treasurer. And among other things, she's going to get to study at the AHS Summer Institute and at the Swiss Summer Academy with Alexander Boldachek. So thank you, Felice. And congratulations. Another thing I would urge all of you to look at, if you click on this online, are testimonials from some of our recent winners. These are very poignant statements from these brilliant young harpists talking about what these awards mean to them. And it's a reflection that we should share because the donors gave these funds for exactly these purposes. And we're just so happy that we've been able to see it through and have these awards go into the hands of such absolutely deserving young harpists. More testimonials. And of course, you know, there's a lasting legacy because the foundation is helping create the future harpists, many of whom are out there performing and competing, and we hope they will come and audition for some of these awards that we have learned over a lot of hard work to administer, and we just hope that we can encourage more and more young harpists to come forward and more donors to support these efforts because they really do make a difference. So this is just pictures of some of our wonderful founders, and Sally Maxwell, Dr. Burton, and Ann Adams, Jack Nebergall, Penny Beavers, Winona Gouvet, Dorothy Remsen, and Ruth Papalia, all of whom are beloved. Winona is the only one still around, and I did get to speak with her not too long ago, and she is absolutely thrilled with the changes that have been successfully completed now, and is so proud of the work that everybody puts in because it's really a collective effort. Everybody works really hard for this foundation. So I want to thank you again, and that's it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, give me a second while I navigate back over into our other PowerPoint. Here we go. We're back. Okay, next up we have a report from our treasurer, Jeremy Tubman. Come on up, Jeremy.
Thanks to the wonders of Botox, I still look like this.
Oh.
All right. Well, I am your Jeremy Chestnut, and I am the treasurer this year and next year too. So I would like to start off by saying that the American Heart Society is in a solid financial position, and it's able to meet its financial obligations during a time of economic uncertainty, and we're sure that we'll meet all financial obligations for the next year, and so we are in good shape financially. Like any other organization or like ourselves at the house, the pandemic has affected economics and culture and everything like that. And so that's something that I sometimes lose sleep over as treasurer, but not really. I didn't just sleep in. But it's something that we think about. Luckily, over the several years of excellent leadership, decades of excellent leadership of the Heart Society, we have a significant amount of money and a significant amount of reserves to help in a rainy day time. I think this is an economically rainy day time. And so we are certainly fine for a long time in the future. Right now, as of last week when I wrote this report, the amount of the Stifel investments were $694,840.62. And that's the cash reserve funds, the funds functioning as endowment, and the Papalia Scholarship Fund. And at that time, the checking account also had $19,516.77 for a total assets of $714,357.39. So I wasn't kidding when we said we're in a good financial. That's all our reserve. Not to mention all the great things that happen with all the programming and your membership dues, which pay for only about 50% of the total cost of everything. And coming to conferences helps support everything that happens in the Heart Society. So as we look to the coming year, one of the really important things to remember, as with any budget, we can adjust the income and we can adjust the expenses. And so one way that is a great way to get more income is to get more people to join the national organization. So if you have any Harpist friends in your chapters at home who are a member of the local chapter but not a member of the national, you should tell them about this great event here and how great it was, and that they should register for the next time in Orlando. Everyone loves Orlando. And it's official, 25 is official, right? Okay, well, after that, but next year, make sure all your friends who are join and become members of the national organization are also coming to national events, because you get to hear great music and meet interesting people. Who would have ever thought we would have met a dear friend, a fifth son of Harpo Marx, and so we always end, I don't know if anybody went to Ari's presentation, but it was something that I had never heard before on the Harp, and I think that's really exciting. And so it's great that these institutes combine the tradition of the past and also look towards the future, and it's a great bridge. And so make sure that everybody knows if they're not here, that's my treasure trove.
Very well said. Very, very well said. All right, let's move along. I'm going to welcome up Allison, who's our marketing and communications manager, and she's just going to share with you a little bit about what's been going on in her world. Thanks. And we only got to meet her for the first time in person, and she's been with us for
3.5 years.
So happy you're here.
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to be here and get to meet people in person who I've been seeing on Zoom for the last 3.5 years. So hi, I'm Allison. I've met some of you in person, or introduced myself to some of you. But basically, I run marketing and communications. So anytime you get a newsletter or you see a post on social media, 99% chance I'm the one that put it together and organize all that stuff. So when you see a comment from the Harp Society, it's probably me on social media. So yeah, I'll just talk about some of the things we've been working on the marketing and communication side. For the last 3.5 years, we've really been focusing on engagement of our members. And you can see our newsletter rates. I started working in this position in December 2019. This is a new position. I'm the first person who's held this position. So I'm really excited to say that we've grown our newsletter readership quite a bit. And someone asked me yesterday what a newsletter open rate means. So just briefly to say, you send out a newsletter to 2,700 people, which is about our membership. The open rate is the percentage of people who actually open that newsletter. So that's how we gauge engagement. In 2018, we had about 50% engagement, and now we're up to 72%. So our members are very engaged. Thank you. Along the same lines, our social media followership has grown as well. There's just some numbers there that I'm pretty excited about, especially Instagram, which is where a lot of young people are hanging out, and that has grown tremendously as well. TikTok is a social media platform that is new for a lot of us. But we are currently working closely with board member Riza to create a TikTok presence as well, which I think is becoming more and more important every day. And we now have a text feature. So if you prefer to receive information over text, you can now opt in to the Harp Society's texting feature. This is a very heavily regulated new thing, so you're not going to get masses of text messages from the Harp Society. If you do opt in, you'll get reminders when deadlines are coming up, like, hey, our spring grants program deadline is next week, so make sure you get your application in. So that's the kind of stuff you can expect from us. No more than once per month. Not invasive. You can stop at any moment, but it's a great way to just make sure you're getting those important reminders for the membership. And I think that's it. I am the photographer, so it doesn't look very official. But this weekend you might see me sneaking in and taking pictures, and don't worry, it's sanctioned.
And if you're having a hard time figure this out, we'll make sure that in an upcoming e-newsletter that we reiterate how you can opt in for text messages. Watch for that. Watch for that. Yes. Put it in the app. Yes, we'll put it in the app. Excellent. Wonderful. I'd like to welcome up the members of our new idea committee to introduce themselves and tell you what they're going to be up to in the next couple of days. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Elisa Torres. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm very proud to be part of this committee. We're also missing in person today Robin, Gordon Cartier, and Juan Riveros. We're very motivated to work and represent really everyone in the AHS. So what are we missing? Who are we missing? We really want to just be there and all be part of the society.
Yeah, so this good. See, I have a theme running through because we care about our members and we really want to develop our members. And one of the ways we can do that is to find ways to reach out to people who haven't been reached out to before and to make them feel included and part of the Heart Society. And so that's one of the reasons we started this program. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're having a listening session, which we aptly call the sound. You see that phone there. And so if you look tomorrow and tomorrow's Friday, and then Saturday, you'll look for this little banner, and there's a sign, and for us to be at a table, it's gonna be in the courtyard Friday and Saturday at 12:15. Maybe look at that logo, everyone. Look for that. In the courtyard out there, between the two buildings, Friday and Saturday from 12:15 to 1. We'll be there, and you just want to get a chance to meet the members. If you have any ideas to share with the idea committee, we'd be happy listen and to get some information. And because we meet about once a month on Zoom, real early in the morning for some of us, and a little bit later for some other people, because it's 4 hours difference among the we have a spread out times up. And so we have some ideas, but we obviously we want to get some ideas from our members. So please find us, and there's just going to be really informal. We're just chatting with people 12:15 to 1 tomorrow, and also on Saturday in the courtyard. And if there's some inclement weather, we'll put some information on the app, and you'll know where to go. That's all the information that we have. Yeah, thank you for listening.
I'm going to invite our executive director up, Kathy, to give us our membership report. I can do it. Got it.
All right, I have an update for you. This number is not correct. As of a couple hours ago, our membership is 2,770. Ago, we were a little higher than that, so we really want to get that number up to 3,000, and we could use your help to do that. As Jeremy told you, we want more new members. This chart shows you the breakdown of the membership categories. We could certainly use more students, although I think that's pretty good representation, students in an organization. And we actually have over 200 life members, which is pretty neat. The last couple of years, we've seen a little surge in people becoming life members. And so that's something for you all to think about. It's a good deal. We've initiated a couple new things for our international members in the last year. We're looking at the fact that international members are paying more than the US members because of the cost of sending out the magazine, frankly. And so we've created this digital discount code. If you're happy with just getting a PDF of the journal, then you can save $15 a year on your international membership. That's a good deal. We've also created a lower international student rate. Previously, students, there was just one international rate. Now the students can join at a lower rate, and again, if they want to use the digital code, they'll pay this. They'll pay the same as a student here in the U.S. So that's, we think, a really good step forward. We've also done a couple things to try to get those new members. If you recruit 3 brand new members, not somebody that used to be a member, not somebody that just is renewing, but a new member, get 3 of them by the end of June, and you get a free year of membership. We'll extend your membership a whole year after your current membership expires. Great opportunity. Help us hit that 3,000 by the end of this month. The membership committee is also looking at some new benefits and some different ways to make sure everybody understands the benefits and takes advantage of everything the society offers. It's quite a bit. So you'll probably be hearing from the membership committee and us over the next year with questions and perhaps some good information. I also want to take a moment of personal privilege to say thank you to this board. I've been in nonprofit management for over 30 years, and it's the very best board I've ever worked for.
they're hands-on, they jump in, they get things done and make my job easy. They get to do the hard and the fun stuff of the programming and the vision for the society, and I just help make it happen. So, and congratulations to the membership for electing such a great board. And so, thanks very much.
And now I'm welcoming our chairman of the board, Keila, up, and she's going to tell you more about the other members of the board.
Thank you. So, and thank you, Kathy, for that high praise. I would just very quickly like to introduce who has been serving as your board of directors this past year and welcome some of our new board members who will be seated on board after this meeting. So hi, I'm Keila. And if you are here in the room, please stand up. We did have several join us online as well. So when I get to your slides, stand up so we can say hi. So we'll start with the executive committee, which is made up of officers and 3 appointed members. The executive committee meets monthly to handle some of the more day-to-day things of the society. The full board meets both in person once a year and then virtually quarterly. Our executive committee, of course, includes our president. Molly Hugo is our first vice president. Rosanna is our second. Next, Lynn is our second. You've already met Jeremy then. Lillian Lau, who joined us online, is one of the appointed members of the executive committee, and she is finishing up her term as of today. Charles Lynch, are you in here, Charles? I saw, oh, there he is. And Elisa Torres. You met me, okay. The regional directors are our direct link between the board and the local chapters. And so our board is made up of regional directors and then directors at large. So your regional director is the person that you come to from your area with questions and all of that. And they are Ann Sullivan, coordinator who helps the RDs know what they are doing and work on our ideas for engaging our chapters and our members. Jennifer Ellis, who is not present. John Holland. Vincent, I saw. Who joined us online. Rebecca Tadaro also joined us online. Our directors at large can live anywhere and serve in all kinds of capacities. So Lynn Appman, Karen Gockley, line. And Brandy, who finished up her term today, all joined us virtually online. And I would welcome our new board members, Hope Cowan, who will be a new regional director for South Central, and then the rest are at large. Steve Moss, who's joined us. And Becky Yule. So thank you to everyone for your service and dedication.
All right. I'm just very briefly give you a few highlights from the year that we had. We continue to be working on our 2020-2025 strategic plan, and some things that came out of that this year. Some of our highlights was the creation of a new position our diversity coordinator, which the board just approved. And so will be shortly filled by a person that you will all get to meet. We have the idea committee who you just got to meet. We have a new AHS fundraising development working group that will be starting meetings in the coming weeks. We have a youth blog, which is awesome. You can find it on YouTube. There are 4 episodes up. I encourage you all to check it out. We've had various membership campaigns, which you heard about from Kathy. She mentioned some of them about referring and getting a free year of membership. Saying. And you may have noticed in our last years that we actually announced that in 2026, we're going to be having a combined event between the American Heart Society and the World Heart Congress, and it will take place in Toronto, Canada. So that is something to look forward to and to mark in your calendar. We continue to do such things as revise existing programs to make sure they continue to serve our membership. And we've been busy updating our policy and procedures document, which is the living, breathing document on our website. And it tells you all kinds of important things about what we do in the Heart Society, how we do that. So those are a few highlights from our year. Okay, now something a little bit exciting. I'm really thrilled to get to announce to you the 2023 AHS Chapter of the Year. Drum roll. The Roslyn Ranch Central Illinois Chapter. And I think I believe there's a member from the chapter here who was going to say a few words to Brina. Yes, please come on down. Thank you.
Everyone, I'm Sabrina Vaughn. I'm the newsletter editor of the Roslyn Ranch Central chapter. And the HARP chapter is actually for me a new experience because I was not a member of the AHS until recently, and I joined the chapter last fall. So it was a great experience for me to meet harpists in my area and connect with the HARP community at large. I want to give a shout out to our president who isn't here with us today, but Jonathan Schneider from Puerto Rico, who's studying with Elisa. He has done a great job of this and providing a lot of great performance experiences for us at libraries and retirement centers. So it's been a great opportunity for harpists to engage with the public and reach audiences who otherwise wouldn't have the chance to hear live harpists. So I'm really excited forward getting to do, and thank you so much.
Thank you. We're blown away by the applications we got for Chapter of the Year, and we're just thrilled to hear all the exciting, wonderful things that your chapter has done. Congratulations. Another exciting announcement, our 2023 Lifetime Achievement Award. Can I have another drum roll? Here is William Lovelace. He unfortunately is unable to be with us today, but I'm going to invite up Rosanna, our second vice president, who's going to share a little bit about William, and we do have successful completion. Wow. That's pretty much
That was from one of his earliest publications. William Lovelace was the American Heart Society president from 2002 to 2006. William is also very much loved by our members as Uncle Knuckle. He was the editor and writer of Uncle Knuckle News, part of the American Heart Journal from 1994 to 2007. His fun and informative approach sparked curiosity of young harpists and motivated so many of us. The following is from one of the earlier publications in 1994. Uncle Knuckle is professor at the Bowstring University. It is a place that you can only go with your imagination. The name Uncle Knuckle is a nickname that William got when he discovered that without knuckles, no one can play the harp. Thank you, William. Love us, our Professor Nicole.
I had the distinct pleasure of phoning him and telling him that he received this award, and I can tell you that he was speechless. Like, he literally sat on the phone and I didn't hear anything, and he was just like, I don't know what to say. I can't believe that, that I am, being honored, that I'm worthy to be honored. And I just kept saying, yes, you've done such amazing, wonderful things for the Heart Society. We're so grateful. You are so deserving of this award. He was truly blown away and honored, and he really has done such wonderful things for the Heart Society. He's just so deserving. He will be, we'll hopefully have an interview with him later that you guys will be able to see. But in the meantime, he did write a little thank you for the recognition. We give highlights.
This is what William Lovett shared with us. I'd like to thank the Society for honoring me with this award. My first harp teacher, Dr. Kathy Bundock Moore, felt that belonging to the American Harp Society was not an option, it was an opportunity. Mostly because of Kathy, I attended my first national conference when I was 23 years old. At the first conference, I met a harpist who would eventually become my second most important harp teacher, Lucian Thompson. Neither Kathy or Lucian lived long enough to be honored as Lifetime Achievement Award recipients, but I owe them a huge debt of gratitude because without their constant, diligent examples of service, I might not have stepped up into the roles that were offered to me to serve this wonderful society. Kathy and Lucian, and so many other past recipients of this award, taught me how to serve and encouraged me along the way. By honoring me today, I feel strongly that you honor the legacy of Kathy and Lucian's service and the selfless service of all previous recipients of this award. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, there's some really beautiful words, and you can hear how appreciative he is, and we are so appreciative of him and all that he has done for the Heart Society. Ooh, this is an exciting moment. Ellie, you're gonna have to come up here. And formally thank Ellie Cho, who is our 2023 AHS National Summer Institute Chair. Without you, we would not be here. Oh. Thank you so much. I'd just like to thank our local chapter, the Los Angeles chapter of the American Heart Society, for helping with this event. Thank you so much. I would like to thank many people who are in this list, who are our Institute team, or if any of them are in the room. Please take a moment to say anyone from the chapter, anyone from the Institute team. They're probably running around doing things. But if they are here, we'll give them a round of applause. Yeah. I would like to thank the school at which we are at Coburn and the team there who helped make this possible as well. And of course, we know that simultaneously running with our, as we start our institute, is the national competition. And so their team, who are obviously not in this room right now because they're busy running the competition, we want to thank them as well for their part of it. And as maybe like an hour ago, we now know who our next concert artist. Congratulations to Caitlin Miller. Well, this is what you're getting in this meeting.
We just got advanced if you want.
Oh, sure.
They're in the app. First prize, Margaret Gunter, second, Sebastian Goebbels, Julia Johnson, and Raquel Nisi.
There you go.
Wow.
So just next June, we're going to be in Orlando for our long-awaited national conference. This has been rescheduled since 2020. So please join us, bring your swimsuit. We're going to have a great time. There's some fantastic programming. And right now, following this meeting, we've got our chapter ambassador fair. I encourage you to stay, hang out, get to meet these wonderful young harvests who are here joining us at this event. And oh yes, there's graphics. Thank you so much for your patience and for attending our meeting. Have a great rest of your day.